Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 2,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. We are live with some absolutely insane breaking news coming straight out of Minnesota that's going to shake the entire NFL to its core. And I'm telling you right now, if you're not subscribed to this channel yet, you need to hit that subscribe button immediately because we are about to break down one of the most dramatic roster overhauls in recent Minnesota Vikings history. And trust me, it gets wilder than you could possibly imagine. So buckle up, because on this Sunday morning, the Vikings organization just dropped a bombshell that has the entire fan base scrambling for answers. Adam Schefter himself tweeted out that the Minnesota Vikings are parting ways with two massive pieces of their roster. And folks, this isn't some minor roster shuffle we're talking about here. No. This is the kind of move that changes everything about how we need to think about this football team going forward into the 2025 season. Let me break this down for you because there's a lot to unpack here, and honestly, the more you dig into these decisions, the more you realize this Minnesota Vikings organization is in complete survival mode right now. They're hemorrhaging money on the salary cap, they're making moves that frankly look like absolute desperation, and the quarterback question looming over this franchise is absolutely massive. The shocking double departure. Aaron Jones and Javon Hargrave are out. Here's the headline that's got everyone talking. The Vikings have officially informed running back Aaron Jones and defensive tackle Javon Hargrave that they're being released at the start of the league year this month. Now, if you've been paying attention to Vikings news, this probably doesn't come as a complete shock, but the timing and the way this is all going down is absolutely telling a story about an organization in serious cap trouble. Let's talk about Aaron Jones first because this is actually the easier pill to swallow for Vikings fans. Aaron Jones is 31 years old, folks. He's got a lengthy injury history, and while I'll be honest with you, I thought he ran pretty well this past season, especially coming back from that hamstring injury in that Lions game where he brought some serious juice to the running back room. The fact of the matter is this: the Vikings need to get younger at the running back position. They need more athleticism. They need guys with fresh legs who can take the workload and not break down 3 games into the season. And here's the thing that really bothers me, and I want to be completely transparent about this. Last year, the Vikings organization decided to bring Aaron Jones back on a contract extension. I wasn't thrilled about it then, and frankly, this move proves my concerns were justified, because here's what happened. Last year's running back draft class was stacked. It was deep. We're talking guys in round 6, round 7 that you could have grabbed and gotten quality contributions from day one. But instead, the Vikings front office decided to go with the veteran option, the locker room leader, the guy everyone loves in the organization. Don't get me wrong, Aaron Jones clearly has massive value in the locker room. The guys respect him. He's been a leader for this organization. And yes, that matters. That absolutely matters. But in the salary cap world, you can't afford to pay premium dollars for veteran leadership when you could be investing in youth and athleticism. And that's exactly what this cut is about. The Vikings will save $7.75 million against the salary cap with this move. That's meaningful money in a league where every dollar counts, especially when you're already drowning in cap issues like the Minnesota Vikings are right now. The real disaster: Javon Hargrave and the most expensive mistake of this offseason. Now let's talk about Javon Hargrave, because this, folks, this is where things get really interesting and honestly kind of depressing for Vikings fans who've been watching this organization make some truly baffling decisions in the trenches. Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen, these two names are going to go down in Vikings infamy as the absolute biggest whiffs of the past offseason. And I'm not exaggerating one bit. This was supposed to be an elite, all-pro caliber defensive line. This was supposed to be the foundation that carried the Vikings' defense into the playoffs and beyond. Instead, it's become the cautionary tale of what happens when you overpay for aging veterans without fully understanding the depth of your roster. The Vikings are cutting Javon Hargrave and saving just under $11 million against the cap. That's $10.9 million to be exact. And you know what? even though we knew this was coming, the amount of cap space being freed up in these moves is actually kind of depressing because it shows you how much money was completely wasted on these two defensive line signings. But here's where it gets interesting. We're hearing from reports coming out of the NFL Combine that the Vikings might also be moving on from Jonathan Allen. Now, that's a tricky situation because while you'd save $6 million by cutting him, you'd also take on $17 million of dead cap. That's a losing proposition, and frankly, it shows you how badly this entire defensive line investment backfired. Let me paint you a picture of what happened here. The Vikings thought they were getting elite interior defensive line play. They thought they were putting together a dream team up front. And then what actually happened? A guy named Jalen Redmond, who came from the XFL, became one of the best players on this entire defense. I'm not even exaggerating. Greg Olsen was on the broadcast of a Vikings game, and he asked one of the opposing team's coaches before the game who was the best player on the Vikings defense. You know what the answer was? Jalen Redmond, number 61, in the middle. Think about that for a second. The Vikings paid millions and millions of dollars to Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen, and the most impactful defensive lineman on the Vikings roster turned out to be a guy from the XFL. That's not a criticism of Jalen Redmond, because the kid balled out and clearly deserves credit. It's an indictment of the front office for completely misreading the market and wasting resources on aging defensive linemen who couldn't get the job done. Add to that the emergence of Levi Drake Rodriguez later in the season, and you've got a situation where both of these expensive veterans were essentially benched in favor of younger, hungrier players. And that's the ultimate kick in the pants. Not only did the contracts not work out, but the players themselves weren't even good enough to crack the rotation by the end of the season. So cutting Javon Hargrave, while expected, is also a reminder of just how badly the Vikings front office whiffed on the 2024 offseason free agency spending spree. The math doesn't add up. Vikings still massively over the cap. Now here's where things get really complicated, and this is why we need to pay close attention to what happens over the next few weeks. The Minnesota Vikings, before these two cuts, were $45 million over the salary cap. Think about that number for a second. $45 million. That's not a small problem. That's not a minor adjustment. That's a full-blown financial crisis. And what do these two cuts do? They clear up approximately $19 million in cap space, maybe a little bit more if you're generous with the math. Let me break it down. Aaron Jones saves $7.75 million. Javon Hargrave saves just under $11 million. You're looking at somewhere around $18.5 million total. But here's the problem, and this is where the Vikings front office is sweating bullets right now. Even after cutting two significant pieces of their roster, they're still going to be somewhere around $25 to $30 million over the salary cap. That means there are a lot more moves coming. A lot more moves. And not all of them are going to be popular. We've heard rumors that Jonathan Allen might also be on the way out, but as I mentioned, that one's financially complicated. We've also heard that T.J. Hawkinson, the Vikings' tight end, might be forced to take a significant pay cut to stay with the team. And that's actually a pretty shocking development if it plays out that way. T.J. Hawkinson has a $17 million cap hit this year. Or is it? The reports from the Combine suggest the Vikings are leaning towards keeping him, which basically means one of two things. Either they're about to get creative with a restructure, or Hawkinson is going to take a pay cut because he knows what the alternatives are. The tight end market is brutal, and if he wants to stay in Minnesota, he might not have much choice in the matter. But the bigger picture here is that the Vikings front office is operating from a position of weakness. They're not cutting players because they want to. They're cutting players because they have to. And when you're operating from that position of desperation, you often make decisions that are less than ideal. The running back question, expecting a draft pick, but at what cost? Okay, so Aaron Jones is gone. That much we've established. And now the Vikings are left with Jordan Mason as essentially their featured back. Now Jordan Mason is a quality player. Don't get me wrong. He's got elite vision, He's got that downhill power, he's got real potential, but he can't carry the entire load by himself. Every team needs depth at running back, and the Vikings need to find that next piece. And here's what we can expect. The Vikings are almost certainly going to draft a running back. They were doing extensive homework at the NFL Scouting Combine on the top backs in this class. They met with guys like Emmett Johnson from Nebraska, the Minneapolis native, who, ironically, wasn't even offered a scholarship from the Golden Gophers. Emmett ran a 46.40 at the Combine, so he's not exactly a blazer, but he's a physical downhill runner with real potential. But here's the thing about Emmett Johnson that might be a problem for the Vikings. He's pretty similar to Jordan Mason. And do you really want two backs with the same skill set? Probably not. You want complementary pieces. You want a speed demon, a pass catcher out of the backfield to pair with Jordan Mason's power running style. The Vikings are also doing homework on guys like Cron Allen and Nick Singleton, both from Penn State. Now, if you remember 2 years ago when there was speculation about Penn State running backs potentially declaring for the draft early, the Vikings were all over it. They were doing deep dives on both of these guys, and they continued that work at the Combine, meeting with both players. If the Vikings want a real compliment to Jordan Mason, Nick Singleton might be your guy. Singleton is more of a pass catcher, more of a speed element that you could pair with Mason's downhill style. Cron Allen, on the other hand, is very similar to Jordan Mason. He's a bruising downhill runner. But let me tell you, this guy has some of the biggest, most powerful legs you're going to see at the running back position in college football. He's incredibly tough to bring down one-on-one. I'm a massive fan of Cron Allen. Even though this running back draft class doesn't have the depth of last year, it's still got some serious top-end talent. You've got Jeremiah Love, who some people are calling a generational prospect. You've got guys like Jalen Fowler, Kelsey Amos, and others who can contribute on day 2 or early day 3. But here's what really matters. The Vikings are going to draft a running back, probably sooner rather than later. They couldn't afford to keep Aaron Jones, so they're going to invest draft capital in finding a young, hungry replacement. That's just how this business works. The bombshell nobody saw coming: Kyler Murray versus Geno Smith and the future of the Vikings. Now we get to the part that's absolutely shaking up the entire Vikings fan base. Jeremy Fowler, one of the most connected NFL insiders out there, dropped a massive article this morning saying that the two main quarterback options for the Vikings to watch are Kyler Murray and Geno Smith. Kyler Murray. Let that name sink in for a second. The former #1 overall pick, the Arizona Cardinals franchise cornerstone who's been waiting for his entire career to play in a functional organization with competent coaching. And Geno Smith, the Seattle Seahawks backup turned starter, who's been absolutely balling out at times, but also dealing with a rough year with the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, let me break down the schematic argument first, because that's what everyone's going to focus on. Schematically, Geno Smith makes more sense on paper. He's a pocket passer. He gets the ball out on time. He's accurate. He doesn't need a lot of exotic play calling to be effective. He just needs competent offensive line play, a solid receiving core, and a clear system. The Vikings have those things, at least defensively, which means they could plug Geno Smith in and probably have a pretty functional offense. But here's where I need to be real with you. Geno Smith's film with the Las Vegas Raiders this past season was absolutely abysmal, and I don't think it tells the whole story. The Raiders had no weapons. They had no offensive line. Chip Kelly, their offensive coordinator, was completely out of his depth. When you're looking at Geno Smith's film from last year, you're not seeing a quarterback who's bad. You're seeing a quarterback who was set up to fail by a terrible organization. And trust me, that's an important distinction. But here's the thing that really intrigues me about Kyler Murray, and frankly, I think a lot of Vikings fans are going to disagree with me on this one, but hear me out. Kyler Murray has been held back his entire career by terrible organizations and terrible coaching. He's had Cliff Kingsbury, he's had Rich Gannon, he's had dysfunction from the top down in Arizona. It's the same story you see with guys like Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, guys who were drafted high by organizations that just didn't have the infrastructure to support them, guys who needed to go elsewhere to actually succeed. Kyler Murray would fit that profile perfectly. And yeah, I get it. The scheme fit doesn't make sense on paper. When you picture Kyler Murray running Kevin O'Neal's system, your brain kind of short-circuits because the two things don't seem to go together. But here's what I'm asking. What if Kevin O'Neal is good enough at his job to adjust? What if he's the genius they claim he is? What if he can actually modify his offensive scheme to be more Kyler Murray friendly instead of just insisting that every quarterback needs to fit his system? That's the bet you're making if you go with Kyler Murray. You're betting on a head coach to show some adaptability and creativity. And maybe that's a big ask, but it's also a possibility. Now, here's the other thing that really matters. If the Vikings bring in Geno Smith and J.J. McCarthy can't beat him out after an entire offseason of development, we've got serious problems. J.J. McCarthy is the future of this franchise. Or at least he's supposed to be. If you give him a whole offseason to work with the new regime, to develop his skills, to mature as a person and as a player, and he still can't win the starting job over Geno Smith, that tells you something about where this team is headed, and it's not good. But if the Vikings can't beat out Kyler Murray, well, Kyler was a first overall pick. He had some of the best talent in the draft. He just had bad luck with organizations. So if JJ can't beat him, it's not necessarily a damning indictment of JJ. It's more about the caliber of competition. And here's the thing about Kyler Murray that I really believe. The best football we will see from Kyler Murray in his entire career will be next year with the Minnesota Vikings. He's had nothing in Arizona. He's had terrible coaching situations. He's had a franchise that doesn't seem to have any idea what it's doing. But in Minnesota, with a top 5 defense, with weapons in the receiving corps, with competent coaching on the offensive side, that could unlock something special. Natter, the ceiling, the floor, and the risk factor. Here's where I need to talk about the upside and downside of each quarterback option, because the math on this is really interesting. With Geno Smith, you know what you're getting. You know the ceiling. If Geno Smith is a 17-game starter for the Vikings, they're going to win a lot of football games. That's not hyperbole. That's just facts. They've got a top 5 defense. They've got the weapons you need in the passing game. They've got a head coach who's supposed to be an offensive genius. With Geno Smith and this roster, I genuinely believe the Vikings will win at least 10 games, probably more like 11 or 12. But the floor is also higher with Geno. Even if things go wrong, even if the offense sputters, the Vikings can fall back on their defense and probably still win 7 or 8 games. With Kyler Murray, everything is uncertain. Everything is a question mark. The ceiling? Who knows? If I told you the Vikings win 13 games with Kyler Murray next year, I could absolutely see that playing out. The offense would be electric, the defense would be suffocating, and the Vikings would be one of the scariest teams in football. But the floor? Also unclear. If I told you the Vikings win 7 games with Kyler Murray, I could see that too. Because scheme fit matters, adaptability matters, and if Kevin O'Neal can't figure out how to make it work, the offense could be a disaster. So basically, with Geno Smith, you're looking at a range of probably 8 to 13 wins, with most outcomes clustering around 10, 11, 12. With Kyler Murray, you could see anywhere from 7 to 13, and you honestly don't know where you're going to land until you get into the season. And that's why I would lean towards Kyler if I'm being completely honest with you. Because I would rather take the risk on the unknown upside, the potential for something special, than settle for what I know is probably going to be a solid but ultimately limited offense. The Vikings have been a good team. They haven't been great, and great requires risk. What comes next? The domino effect. Here's what we need to understand. These moves with Aaron Jones and Javon Hargrave are just the beginning. This is not the end of the Vikings' offseason moves. This is the start of what's probably going to be a domino effect of cuts, restructures, trades, and moves that we can't even predict yet. The Vikings still need to solve their salary cap problem. They still need to figure out their quarterback situation. They still need to draft a running back. And they probably need to make some other moves in the secondary, on the offensive line, or in other areas of the roster. In the next few weeks, we're probably going to see more cuts announced. We might see some trades happen. We might see restructures that free up additional cap space. And we might see the quarterback situation finally get settled. Although, honestly, based on what Jeremy Fowler is reporting, it doesn't sound like the team has made a decision yet, which is kind of shocking considering we're already into March. But that's where we are. The Minnesota Vikings are in complete rebuilding mode. They're making moves out of desperation, and they're hoping that somehow, some way, they can string together a competitive roster for the 2025 season. The bottom line: chaos, uncertainty, and hope. So here's what we know. The Vikings are cutting Aaron Jones and Javon Hargrave. They're still massively over the salary cap. They're going to draft a running back. And they're probably going to acquire a veteran quarterback, either Kyler Murray or Geno Smith, to compete with J.J. McCarthy for the starting job. Is it a perfect situation? Absolutely not. Are there red flags? For sure. But is there also potential for this team to be something special? Maybe. If Kevin O'Neal can figure out how to maximize whatever quarterback they bring in, if the defense stays dominant, and if J.J. McCarthy can develop into a competent backup or even a future starter, the Vikings could surprise a lot of people in 2025. This is a team in transition. This is an organization that's trying to figure out who it is and what it wants to be. And while that's exciting from a what could happen perspective, it's also terrifying from a this could blow up in their faces perspective. All we can do right now is sit back, watch the dominoes fall, and hope that the Vikings front office finally makes some smart decisions after a couple of really questionable offseason moves in recent years. Make sure you're not missing out, and that is exactly why I need you to hit that subscribe button right now, because over the next few weeks, we are going to be getting breaking news constantly. Every single day, there's probably going to be a new development with the Vikings. Every single day, there might be another cut, another trade, another quarterback update. And if you're not subscribed to this channel, you're going to miss out on all of it. So do yourself a favor, hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications, and join the Vikings chat family so that you can be the first to know about every single breaking news story, every trade rumor, every quarterback update. Because trust me, the next few weeks are going to be absolutely wild, and you're not going to want to miss a second of it. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. We really appreciate the love and support. Keep giving us those skulls in the comments down below. Let us know what you think about these moves. Do you like the Aaron Jones cut? Do you think Javon Hargrave needed to go? And most importantly, who do you want to see as the Vikings quarterback next year, Kyler or Geno? Drop those thoughts in the comments.
Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 2,000
subscribers
subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button right now.